Have you ever walked into a place where you should have felt safe, only to be told you didn't belong? Now imagine that place wasn't just any building. It was yours. Imagine standing in the lobby of a hotel you own, with your name on the contracts, your money keeping the lights on, and being treated like an intruder simply because of how you look. What would you do in that moment? Stay silent and swallow the humiliation? Fight back with anger? Or would you choose a different kind of power, the kind that reveals the truth and forces everyone watching to face their own reflection? Picture yourself there. Would you have the strength to stand tall, calm, and unshaken, while the world watched? This is not just a story about wealth or status. It's about dignity, the kind every one of us deserves, but too many are denied. And it's about choices, the ones we make when the spotlight burns hottest. Stay with us, because what happened next didn't just change one hotel. It sparked a movement. If this touches you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Let's begin. The Aurora Grand Hotel in Midtown Manhattan was a palace of glass and steel. Its marble lobby gleamed under a chandelier that cost more than most houses in Queens. The evening crowd moved with the quiet confidence of people who never worried about the price of anything. At 10:51 p.m., the revolving doors opened, and a woman stepped inside. Her name was Selina Carter. She carried no designer handbag, no silk scarf, just a weathered leather satchel over her shoulder and a pair of scuffed boots that had clearly seen subway stairs more than limousine carpets. Her jeans were faded, her t-shirt soft from too many washes. She walked with the calm certainty of someone who belonged anywhere she chose. Yet in the Aurora Grand, appearances were everything, and appearances deceived. Selina approached the front desk. Behind the polished mahogany counter stood Thomas Green, the night manager. His suit was tailored, his tie knotted with precision, his smile practiced but thin. To his left, a younger receptionist named Kayla Brooks shuffled nervously through check-in documents. "Good evening," Selina said quietly, sliding a platinum card across the counter. "I have a reservation, the presidential suite." Thomas barely glanced at her. He picked up the card, held it between two fingers like it might be contaminated, then dropped it onto the marble floor. The sharp slap echoed in the cavernous lobby. "Pick that up and get out," he said, his voice dripping disdain. "Before I have you arrested." Gas rippled from a couple nearby. A hedge fund manager paused his phone call mid-sentence. Kayla froze, her hand hovering over the keyboard. Selina bent slowly, her movements deliberate, and retrieved the card. She didn't flinch, didn't curse, didn't shout. She only slid it back into her satchel, as if tucking away something fragile. "I believe you'll find the reservation under Carter," she said. Still calm, Thomas sneered. "This is the Aurora Grand. Sweetheart, we host senators, royalty, CEOs. Look around." He gestured at the gilded walls, the soaring ceilings, the Picassos on loan. "Does anyone here look like they shop at a thrift store?" Kayla gave a nervous giggle. "Should I call security, Mr. Green?" Thomas smirked. "Maybe. That card's probably counterfeit. Could even have fentanyl on it." Selina's eyes didn't flicker. Only her hand rested lightly on the counter, steady as stone. Reservation, presidential suite, 11 o'clock. She placed her phone on the counter, the confirmation email glowing on the screen. Thomas waved it off. Anyone can fake an email. We're not fools. The clock on the wall ticked to 10:54. A hush fell over the lobby. An elderly couple in diamonds whispered behind manicured hands. A young woman in a chic coat, Isabella Torres, a lifestyle influencer, raised her phone discreetly. whispering to her followers. "You guys are not going to believe what I'm seeing right now." The viewer count began to climb. Thomas leaned forward, close enough that Selina could smell his cologne, expensive, sharp. "Let me spell it out," he said, his voice low, but meant to carry. "People like you don't stay here. People like you clean here." The words hung in the air, like smoke. Selina breathed once, deeply. Her mother's voice echoed in her memory. "Dignity is the armor they can't take from you." She straightened her shoulders, eyes steady on Thomas. "I'm not leaving," she said simply. Kayla typed on her keyboard, her brow furrowed. "There is a Selina Carter in the system," she admitted reluctantly. "But this can't be the same Selina Carter." "Of course not," Thomas snapped. "The real guest would be different." His eyes swept over Selina's boots, her satchel, her t-shirt. "Not this." A man in a gray suit nearby shifted uncomfortably. A woman on her honeymoon nudged her husband, whispering, "This feels wrong." But no one stepped forward. The clock struck 10:56. 4 minutes until Selina's scheduled video call with the board of directors of Carter Global, a Fortune 500 company no one yet realized she owned. Thomas tapped the counter with one manicured finger. "Last chance. Leave on your own, or I'll have Marcus drag you out." Across the lobby, a tall figure in security uniform straightened. Marcus Hill, head of security, watched the scene with narrowing eyes. Something in Selina's calm presence unsettled him, though he couldn't yet place why. Selina glanced at the chandelier above, at the marble floor beneath, then back at Thomas. "I told you," she said softly, each word like a stone placed carefully. "I have a reservation." Thomas laughed, loud enough for the whole lobby. "I've been in this business 15 years. I can spot a scam from a mile away. You're no guest. You're a fraud." The live stream count on Isabella's phone jumped from hundreds to thousands. Comments scrolled furiously. "This is disgusting. Call corporate now. Why does she stay so calm?" Selina didn't answer the insults. She only checked the time again. 10:57. 3 minutes. Inside. Her chest tightened. A voice in her mind whispered, "How many times will you have to prove you belong?" Another voice answered, "Once more, and then never again." She exhaled slowly. Her calm was not weakness. It was strategy. The lobby waited, breath held, and the clock ticked toward 11. The insults still lingered in the air, sharp as broken glass. Guests shifted in their seats, uncertain whether to watch or look away. Phones tilted upward as more people discreetly filmed. Selina Carter stood in the center of the Aurora Grand's lobby, her satchel strap firm across her shoulder. To anyone else, she might have seemed passive, maybe even powerless. But inside, a storm rumbled. She felt the familiar burn of humiliation rising in her chest. The words Thomas Green had hurled at her echoed people, like "you clean here." It wasn't the first time. Not the first doorman who looked past her. Not the first boardroom where she was assumed to be an assistant instead of the founder. Not the first shop where her card was declined before it was even swiped. Each time, she had chosen silence, not because she lacked power, but because she understood something deeper. Her mother used to say, "Dignity is a choice. They cannot take it unless you hand it to them." Selina's gaze drifted to the chandelier above, its 1,000 tiny lights reflected in the polished floor. She thought of her mother, who had scrubbed hospital floors for 20 years so Selina could go to college. She thought of her father, who fixed cars by day and studied accounting at night, believing his daughter would do what he could not. Selina swallowed the ache rising in her throat. She had come too far to let one arrogant man undo her composure. She looked at the lobby clock. 10:57. 3 minutes until her call. The billion-dollar acquisition her board had been preparing for 6 months would not wait, because one hotel manager couldn't see past his prejudice. Stay still, she told herself. Stay calm. Thomas's laughter rang out again, sharp and theatrical, meant to entertain the wealthy guests around him. He thrived on humiliation. Selina saw it in the way he puffed his chest, the way he angled his body toward the onlookers, milking their attention like applause. Kayla Brooks, the young receptionist, kept glancing at Selina's phone screen. Her fingers trembled above the keyboard. She had seen the name in the system. She knew there was a reservation, but her fear of Thomas outweighed her courage. Selina caught Kayla's eye. For the briefest moment, their gazes locked. Kayla looked away quickly, cheeks flushed. Selina did not blame her. She knew how it felt to be young, to want to keep your job, to think silence was safer. She remembered herself at 22, an intern fetching coffee, while white male colleagues presented her ideas as their own. She had stayed silent then, too. She had learned that silence is survival until one day she decided survival was not enough. The livestream's comments section scrolled in Isabella Torres's hands. This is 2025. How is this still happening? Fire him now. She's handling this like a queen. Selina didn't hear the words, but she felt the collective gaze, thousands of unseen eyes witnessing her humiliation. That was the danger of calmness. It could be mistaken for weakness. She pressed her palm lightly against her satchel, feeling the edges of the leather portfolio inside. Documents that could change everything sat inches from her hand. Her ownership, her authority, her power. She could reveal it now. She could end this humiliation with a single page, a single signature, but she didn't. Not yet, because this wasn't about her. Not entirely. It was about every guest who had walked into this hotel and been told they didn't belong. Every employee who had endured Thomas's arrogance. Every silent witness who had swallowed the taste of injustice because it was easier than speaking up. Her silence now was not weakness. It was a stage she was letting Thomas build higher and higher for himself, unaware of the fall awaiting him. Marcus Hill, the head of security, shifted again. His eyes narrowed as he studied Selina. Something in her posture unsettled him. She wasn't desperate. She wasn't pleading. She stood like a woman waiting for a meeting she had already scheduled. "Mr. Green," Marcus said carefully. "Maybe we should double-check the system before Thomas waved him off. She's wasting everyone's time. We have real guests to serve. Real guests." The phrase stabbed deeper than the others, as if Selina were invisible, as if her money, her reservation, her existence didn't count as real. Selina inhaled, slow and steady. She let the air fill her lungs, then released it. She thought again of her father's hands, rough from grease and wrenches, gripping her shoulders on the day she left for Harvard Business School. "You will walk into rooms where they don't see you," he had said. "Make them see you, not by shouting, by standing, by building something so undeniable they cannot look away." The memory steadied her. 10:58, 2 minutes. Thomas turned dramatically toward the crowd. "This is why standards matter," he announced. "Our loyal guests pay for exclusivity, for protection from nonsense like this." Some nodded uneasily. Others shifted. Uncomfortable. Isabella whispered into her phone. "He's doubling down. Guys, this is insane." Selena's fingers brushed against the satchel again. She could hear the faint buzz of her phone, her assistant texting reminders. The call was seconds away. Not yet, she told herself. Let him climb higher. Inside. Her heart pounded. A part of her wanted to scream, to slam her documents onto the counter, to watch Thomas's face shatter with realization. But another part, the stronger part, knew timing was everything. The wound of prejudice was old. But tonight she would not just endure it. Tonight, she would transform it. Selena's stillness became a force of its own. The lobby seemed to bend toward her, sensing the tension in her quiet defiance. Guests stopped pretending to look away. They leaned forward, waiting, watching, drawn to the strange calm at the center of the storm. Marcus spoke again, softer this time. Ma'am, what did you say your name was? Selena met his eyes. Carter? Selena Carter. Recognition flickered in him, though faint, like a half-forgotten headline. He said nothing more. The clock struck 10:59. 1 minute. Selena closed her eyes briefly. She pictured the board of directors waiting for her. She pictured the billion-dollar deal on the line. She pictured her parents, her younger self, every door that had been slammed in her face. Then she opened her eyes, calm, steady. Her stillness was no longer silence. It was power, and the lobby could feel it. The marble floor of the Aurora Grand gleamed beneath the lobby lights, but the atmosphere had shifted. Whispers rolled like distant thunder. Phones tilted higher, capturing every insult, every flicker of tension. It was 11 p.m. on the dot. The moment Selena Carter should have been upstairs in the presidential suite, preparing for her call. Instead, she was still standing at the counter, her reservation questioned, her dignity under siege. Nenang. Thomas Green tapped the counter again, irritated by her composure. Enough of this charade, he snapped. Kayla, cancel the reservation. We'll release the suite for a paying guest. Kayla's eyes went wide. Her fingers froze above the keyboard. But sir, she's do it. His voice cracked like a whip. Selena's jaw tightened, but she remained still. Kayla hesitated, then glanced at Selena, almost apologetically. Her voice trembled. I'll need to verify corporate authorization to cancel. Mr. Green. Don't question me, he barked. Cancel it. Now. Selena could feel the clock ticking in her bones. Her phone buzzed inside her satchel, a reminder of the board waiting for her. But she didn't move. She let the scene play out, each insult building the weight of what was to come. Her mind wandered briefly, just long enough to sting. This is how it always begins, she thought. First doubt, then erasure, then removal. It was never just about a room. It was about being told, yet again, that she didn't belong. Across the lobby, Isabella Torres's live stream scrolled with furious comments. Cancel her reservation. This is blatant racism. She's so calm. Queen behavior. Tag Aurora Grand Corporate right now. The viewer count ticked past 3,000. Isabella whispered into her phone. They're trying to erase her like she doesn't exist. This is unbelievable. Marcus Hill, the head of security, shifted his weight uneasily. He had seen drunks escorted out, fraudsters caught in lies, but this was different. The woman standing at the counter didn't look like a scammer. She looked like someone waiting for the world to catch up to her truth. Mr. Green, Marcus began cautiously. Maybe we should... I said cancel it. Thomas cut him off. Do you want to keep your job? Marcus. The word stung, but Marcus stayed silent, his jaw tightening. Selina finally spoke, her voice steady, calm as ever. "Are you certain you want to cancel that reservation?" Thomas sneered. "More certain than I've ever been. You don't belong here. You never will." The cruelty in his words was deliberate, calculated. He wanted her to crack, to raise her voice, to give him the satisfaction of calling security. But Selina only nodded once, as though filing the insult away. The elderly couple seated nearby exchanged glances. The woman whispered, "This doesn't feel right. Charles?" Her husband shifted uncomfortably. "We shouldn't get involved." Selina heard them. She always heard. That was the pattern, too. The whispers of those who knew it was wrong, but chose safety over courage. Her chest tightened. How many times will I stand alone like this? She closed her eyes briefly, centering herself. Not alone, not tonight. Kayla's screen beeped. "Mr. Green, the system is asking for an override code." "Then override it." He snapped. Kayla's hands shook. She knew what she was doing was wrong. She could feel it in the pit of her stomach. But the fear of losing her paycheck, her rent money, her fragile job outweighed her conscience. Her finger hovered above the key. Selina leaned closer, her voice low but clear. "Kayla, look at me?" The receptionist froze. Her wide eyes met Selina's. For a moment, time stretched. "You don't have to do this," Selina said softly. "You know it's wrong." Kayla's throat bobbed. I don't have a choice." Selina's gaze softened. "There's always a choice." The words hung heavy, reaching deeper than just this moment. They carried the weight of a lesson Selina had learned long ago, that silence is also a decision, and every decision shapes the world we live in. Kayla's finger shook above the key. Then, almost imperceptibly, she pulled her hand back. Thomas noticed. His face darkened. "Coward," he muttered. He shoved her aside, grabbing the keyboard himself. The crowd gasped. Isabella whispered into her phone, "He just shoved her. This is unreal." Selina checked the clock again. 11:02. Her call was waiting. The deal of her career, no. The deal of her lifetime was hanging in the balance. But so was something larger, something deeper than money or contracts. It was dignity. And she wasn't about to let Thomas strip it away. "Bor, Mines." Marcus stepped closer now, his deep voice steady but firm. "Mr. Green, maybe you should stop. You're making a scene." Thomas turned, his face twisted with disdain. "A scene? This isn't a scene. This is me protecting the hotel's reputation. And if you can't back me up, Marcus, maybe you don't belong here either." The word struck Marcus like a blow. His loyalty to the hotel battled with his growing unease. He had sworn to protect the place, but tonight it felt like protecting meant something else entirely. Selina remained silent, letting Thomas's arrogance dig his own grave. Her hand brushed the leather portfolio again. Inside was her truth, her ownership, her undeniable authority. Not yet, she reminded herself. Timing is everything. The live stream count soared past 5,000. Comments flooded. In someone call CNN. Don't let him erase her. This is history in the making. Finally, Thomas slammed the keyboard. Reservation canceled. Good luck scamming another hotel. The words hit like a gavel. Final. Brutal. Gaffes erupted from the onlookers. Kayla covered her mouth, her eyes wide with horror. Marcus closed his eyes briefly, a muscle twitching in his jaw. Isabella's voice trembled into her phone. He actually canceled it. He just erased her like she's nobody. Selena didn't move. She didn't protest. She simply stood there, her stillness sharper than any shout. Inside, though, her heart pounded. Rage flickered, hot and insistent, but she pressed it down. Rage was a fire that consumed the holder, and she had no intention of being consumed. Instead, she breathed once more, deeply, the way her father had taught her when she was a girl afraid of speaking in class. One breath, then speak. Her voice emerged steady. Thank you, Mr. Green. You've made your position clear. Thomas smirked, mistaking her calm for surrender. Finally, she gets it, but in the stillness of her words lay a storm no one yet understood. The stage was set, and the fall would be spectacular. The gold-rimmed clock above the concierge desk glowed with cruel precision. 11:03 p.m. The second hand swept forward, indifferent to the drama unraveling beneath it. Selena Carter's entire body pulsed with awareness of time. 6 minutes until the board of Carter Global expected her on a secure video call. 6 minutes until the billion-dollar acquisition she had nurtured for half a year either closed or crumbled. And here she was, in the lobby of her own hotel. Denied, erased, humiliated. Thomas Green leaned against the counter. Smug satisfaction painted across his face. Reservation canceled, he announced to no one in particular, like a judge handing down a sentence. Another fraud dealt with. You're welcome. His voice carried across the lobby, a performance for the diamond-draped couple, the honeymooners with their phones, the hedge fund manager pretending to scroll his emails but listening intently. Kayla Brooks sat frozen in her chair, horror etched on her young face. Her screen still showed the reservation valid, verified, glowing in digital certainty. Yet she had watched her boss erase it with a single keystroke. Marcus Hill shifted his stance, arms crossed, eyes fixed on Selena. He wasn't sure why, but something about her quiet presence unsettled him more than any drunk guest ever had. And Isabella Torres whispered to her streaming audience, "It's 11:03, you guys. She's supposed to be in her suite right now. But they canceled her reservation. This is unbelievable." The viewer count jumped again, 7,000, 8,000, climbing like wildfire. Selena's phone buzzed inside her satchel. A reminder board meeting in 7 minutes. She closed her eyes briefly, letting the vibration pass. She remembered a night 20 years earlier, sitting on her dorm room bed at Howard University. She had stayed up until dawn, reworking a business plan after a professor told her, "You'll never convince investors to follow a black woman in ripped jeans and braids." That sting, that dismissal, felt eerily familiar tonight. But she had proven him wrong. She had built something undeniable. And tonight, denial would meet truth again. Thomas tilted his head, smirking. "You're still here." "Didn't I make myself clear?" Selena met his gaze. Calm as stone. "You did." He scoffed. "Then why are you still standing in my lobby?" "Because," she said softly, "this lobby isn't yours." The words carried no anger, only certainty. Marcus frowned, catching the peculiar phrasing. He. The clock ticked to 11:04. 5 minutes. inside. Selina's pulse quickened. She had trained herself for calm years of public speaking, years of negotiations with hostile bankers, years of walking into boardrooms where no one expected her to lead. But beneath that calm, anxiety gnawed. If this call fails, months of work vanish. If I miss it, investors lose faith. For a fleeting moment, she considered abandoning the scene, pushing past Thomas, demanding a quiet room, dialing in. But then she looked around. The crowd was larger now. Guests had spilled from the bar, drawn by the rising tension. The lobby was no longer just marble and chandeliers. It was a stage, and every stage demands a performance. Attends, buenas. Kayla's voice cracked softly. Mr. Green, maybe we should. Thomas cut her off. Not another word. Kayla, do your job or pack your things. Kayla's lips trembled. Her silence tasted bitter. Selina's heart ached for her. I know that silence. I've lived it. A.D. Marcus stepped closer, his tone careful. Ma'am, maybe it's best if you step outside while we sort this. Selina turned to him, eyes steady. Outside. Where exactly do you expect me to go? Officer Hill. Marcus hesitated. He didn't like how she knew his name, though it was printed on his badge. Still, something about the way she said it, measured, deliberate, sent a shiver down his spine. The clock struck 11:05. 4 minutes. Selina's phone buzzed again. Another reminder. Another chance slipping away. She pressed her palm lightly against the satchel, feeling the outline of the leather portfolio. She could reveal it now. Documents, ownership papers, proof. The humiliation could end in an instant. But no, not yet. Timing was everything. Isabella's whisper carried across the live stream. She's not budging. Guys, she's just standing there like she knows something. We don't. Comments poured in. She has receipts. I can feel it. Manager is about to lose his job. I can't stop watching. This is history. The digital crowd swelled past 10,000. Thomas, emboldened by silence, straightened. Fine, he declared. I'm calling NYPD. Let them deal with this fraud. He pulled out his phone, dialing with theatrical exaggeration. Selina's pulse hammered, but she stayed rooted. Her mother's voice echoed again. Hold still. Let them reveal themselves. Truth doesn't need shouting. Awant. The clock ticked to 11:06. 3 minutes. The elderly woman whispered louder now, unable to contain her guilt. This is cruel. Charles, she's done nothing wrong. Her husband muttered back. And what do you expect us to do? Selina caught the words, felt them pierce. She wanted to say, do something, say something, but she knew better. Most people only find courage after someone else goes first. Maybe tonight, she would be that someone. I didn't. Marcus glanced at Thomas's phone. You're really calling the cops? On what grounds? Fraud, trespassing, whatever sticks, Thomas said smugly, already reciting the address. Selina spoke then, her voice low but clear. Officer Hill. Marcus paused mid-step. I'd advise you to consult your employee handbook before you involve the police, she said. Section 7, subsection B. Her tone was calm, almost conversational, but it carried the weight of something hidden. Thomas laughed loudly. Hear that she's quoting legal nonsense she Googled? Classic scammer tactic. But Marcus frowned. He had read that handbook once. He remembered something about discrimination, about termination. He felt unease settle in his gut. The clock struck 11:07. 2 minutes. Selena's stillness deepened. Around her, the lobby buzzed with tension, phones, whispers, outrage. But within her, a decision crystallized. She would not let prejudice steal another minute of her life. She would not let arrogance erase her truth. And she would not miss her call. She reached into her satchel and drew out her phone. The board's number glowed on the screen. She pressed it to her ear, eyes never leaving Thomas. "Good evening, Mr. Chairman," she said, her voice a calm river cutting through chaos. "I'm ready to proceed. Just finishing a restructuring." The word landed like thunder, though Thomas had no idea what it meant. Marcus's eyes narrowed further. Kayla's breath caught. Isabella nearly dropped her phone. The clock struck 11:08. 1 minute. Selena ended the call with a soft smile. Then she placed her satchel on the counter, unzipped it slowly, and slid out the leather portfolio. The stage was ready. The players were in place. And the storm was about to break. The lobby of the Aurora Grand was no longer just a passageway for late-night guests. It had become an arena, every marble surface catching the weight of silence, every pair of eyes fixed on the woman who stood calm while the storm swirled around her. Selena Carter remained steady, one hand resting lightly on her leather portfolio, her gaze locked on Thomas Green. To anyone who had just walked in, it would have looked like a standoff, a manager certain of his authority, a guest unwilling to bend. But to those who had been watching from the beginning, it was more than that. It was a battle of dignity. Phones hovered in the air like glowing lanterns. The number of screens facing the front desk had multiplied. Almost every bystander was recording now. Some whispered, others gasped when Thomas spoke, but most simply watched, captivated by the strange theater of arrogance and stillness. Near the entrance, Isabella Torres whispered to her livestream audience, "Okay, you guys, there are like 12,000 of you on now. I don't even know what to say. This manager just canceled her reservation, and now he's calling the cops." Her voice trembled with disbelief. She's just standing there, like she knows something's coming. The comment feed scrolled relentlessly. "She's powerful. I can feel it. Manager's done. Just wait. I've been treated like this too. Watching her stand tall feels personal." Selena could not hear the words, but she felt the weight of unseen witnesses. Each phone pointed at her was a reminder that she wasn't just standing for herself anymore. She was standing for every unseen person who had been silenced in a lobby, a store, a boardroom. Thomas, meanwhile, fed on the crowd like oxygen. He mistook the cameras as validation, the whispers as admiration. Straightening his tie, he turned toward the guests. "This hotel has a reputation," he said loudly, his voice echoing against the marble. "We protect our loyal clientele from scams and intrusions. That is why people trust us." He spread his arms theatrically. "Do you want a place where anyone can walk in off the street, flash a fake email, and demand the best suite in the house? Or do you want a place where standards are enforced?" The diamond-draped woman whispered to her husband, "He's talking about her like she's not even here." Her husband shifted uncomfortably. "Let's not get involved." But others in the crowd stirred. A man in a navy blazer muttered, "I don't know. She doesn't look like a scammer to me. A younger woman, emboldened by the crowd, spoke up. She showed him the confirmation. I saw it on her phone. He just doesn't want to believe it. Thomas's head snapped toward the voice. Ma'am, unless you're a guest with business here, I suggest you keep your opinions to yourself. Gasps followed. The room tensed. Selina did not move. She let the crowd absorb the manager's arrogance. Marcus Hill, arms folded near the security desk, studied the shifting faces. He could feel it. The crowd wasn't buying Thomas's narrative anymore. The more the man spoke, the more brittle his authority became. Kayla Brooks sat stiff at her station, her face pale. She couldn't erase the image of the canceled reservation flashing on her screen. She wanted to speak, to tell everyone the truth, but fear still held her throat tight. The clock ticked to 11:09. Selina inhaled slowly. Her heart pounded, but her voice, when it came, was calm. Mr. Green, may I ask you something? Thomas turned back to her. Smug. What could you possibly ask me that matters? Selina's voice carried just enough to reach the edges of the lobby. How many guests have you erased tonight? The question cut deeper than any accusation. The crowd stirred, murmurs swelling. Thomas blinked, caught off guard. Excuse me. You erased my reservation with one keystroke. How many others have you erased the same way? Gasps echoed. Kayla's face flushed red. She looked down at her hands, unable to meet anyone's gaze. Isabella whispered into her phone. Oh my God, did you hear that she's calling him out in front of everyone? Thomas's face hardened. This is outrageous. I don't have to answer questions from Selina, interrupted softly, but firmly. You don't, but the cameras will. Every phone lifted higher. The crowd pressed closer. The weight of truth began to shift. The elderly woman who had been whispering earlier finally raised her voice. She's right. He erased it in front of all of us. We saw it. Her husband tried to hush her, but she shook him off. No, Charles, enough. For the first time. Thomas faltered. The crowd's whispers were no longer whispers. They were words, spoken clearly, standing on their own legs. Selina remained still. It wasn't her anger turning the tide. It was his arrogance. He had built his own stage, and now the audience was turning on him. The clock ticked to 11:10. 2 minutes until her call began. Her phone buzzed again. She ignored it. Some things couldn't be rushed. Marcus stepped closer, speaking low but firm. Mr. Green, maybe you should step back. The crowd isn't with you. Thomas's face flushed crimson. Are you siding with her? Over me, over this hotel? Marcus's jaw tightened. He said nothing, but his silence spoke volumes. Kayla finally whispered, her voice trembling but audible. The reservation was real. The room fell silent. All eyes turned to her. Thomas hissed, Kayla, but she raised her chin slightly, surprising even herself. It was real. I saw it. She had the presidential suite booked, and you canceled it. The silence shattered into a wave of voices. Guests murmured angrily. Phones shook in hands. Isabella's audience exploded in comments. She said it. She confirmed it. Proof right there. This is going viral. Thomas's authority cracked like thin glass. He sputtered. You don't know what you're talking about. Selina spoke again, calm as always. Thank you, Kayla. The young receptionist's eyes widened. Gratitude instead of condemnation. It gave her courage she hadn't expected. Selina turned back to Thomas. Her voice was steady, deliberate. It seems the crowd has already decided who they trust. The manager's face twisted with fury. He pounded the counter with his fist. Enough of this circus security. But Marcus didn't move. The clock struck 11:11. Selina looked at the time, then back at the crowd. The moment was almost here. The audience was ready. Her stillness deepened, her gaze unwavering, and for the first time, Thomas Green looked afraid. The stage was no longer his. It belonged to her. The weight of silence in the lobby was unbearable. Every chandelier sparkled above as though even the light was waiting for the next word. Thomas Green stood pale, cornered by the crowd's murmurs and Kayla Brooks' reluctant confession. Then, from the revolving doors, another figure appeared, a man in a tailored gray suit, carrying a slim leather briefcase, walked with deliberate steps toward the center of the commotion. His hair was neatly parted, his shoes gleamed, and his presence commanded attention without force. He paused, glancing at Selina Carter, then at the sea of phones recording every second. His voice was calm but projected with ease, the kind of voice that made juries lean forward. What seems to be the problem here? Thomas spun toward him, eager for an ally. Thank God you're here, sir. We've got a situation. This woman is trying to check into a suite she has no right to. She forged a reservation. I'm about to have her escorted out. The man tilted his head slightly. Forged. You say yes. A complete fraud. Thomas declared. Selina remained still, her gaze on the newcomer. The man set his briefcase down on a side table, then slid his wallet from his pocket. He held up a key card. Suite 4308. I've been staying here for 5 nights. My name is David Lawson. I'm a corporate attorney. The crowd shifted again. Isabella Torres whispered breathlessly into her phone. A lawyer just showed up. You guys, this is getting unreal. Lawson stepped closer to the front desk. His eyes locked on Thomas with the cool precision of a man used to dismantling arguments. I've watched from across the lobby for the last 10 minutes. I saw the guest provide her confirmation. I saw your receptionist hesitate, then admit her name was in the system, and I saw you override that and cancel it. Thomas sputtered, That's a gross misinterpretation. You don't understand the risks we face. I understand plenty. Lawson cut in smoothly. I understand contract law. I understand consumer protection. And I understand discrimination when I see it. Gas rolled through the crowd. Phone zoomed closer. Selina's lips curved into the faintest smile. She hadn't asked for rescue, but sometimes truth arrived in the form of an unexpected witness. Lawson turned to the crowd. Ladies and gentlemen, everything you've seen tonight is now evidence. Every recording you're holding is potential testimony. And I assure you, what has happened to this guest is not only immoral, it is illegal. The murmurs swelled into voices. He's right. I knew it. This is going to blow up. Thomas's face reddened. You can't just, this is hotel business, internal matters. Lawson raised a brow. Internals. Nothing is internal when you've got 100 phones recording and a trending live stream. This is about as public as it gets, Isabella whispered to her viewers. 17,000 now. It's going viral. Selina glanced at her phone. 11:12 p.m. Just minutes until her call. Every second mattered. Yet she let the lawyer speak, knowing his words were building a bridge for what she was about to reveal. Thomas's desperation grew. He turned to Marcus Hill. Officer Hill, remove them. Both of them. This lawyer has no business interfering. Marcus didn't budge. His eyes flicked between Selina and Lawson, then back at Thomas. His silence was louder than any refusal. Kayla's hands trembled on the keyboard. For the first time, she whispered to herself, barely audible. What have we done? Selina finally spoke, her voice calm as still water. Mr. Lawson, may I ask you something? Of course, he said, turning toward her with respect. If this were to become a legal matter, how long would it take for accountability to reach the people responsible? Lawson paused, considering. Months, maybe years. That's how systems usually work. But in this lobby tonight, the court of public opinion is faster. Her nod was slight, but her eyes glimmered with understanding. That was exactly what she needed. Thomas slammed his palm on the counter. This is madness. You're all being manipulated. Look at her. Look at what she's wearing. She doesn't belong in the presidential suite. The room went silent again, the words hanging heavy. Selina didn't flinch. She let the ugliness echo, let every camera absorb it. Then she asked softly, "What exactly should I be wearing, Mr. Green, to deserve respect?" The question pierced deeper than any accusation. The diamond-draped woman whispered, "Oh my." The younger woman near the counter whispered, "That's it. That's the truth right there." Lawson spoke, his voice deliberate. "Mr. Green, you've just provided the clearest evidence of discrimination we could hope for. Appearance, not fact, has been your sole judgment." Thomas faltered, but Selina pressed gently, her tone unshaken. "You didn't hear me when I gave you my name. You didn't believe me when I showed you proof. You erased me because of how I looked to you, but you didn't erase me from reality." The crowd hummed with agreement. Phones shook as people tried to capture every word. Selina glanced at the clock, 11:13. She placed her portfolio on the counter, her movements deliberate. "Mr. Lawson, I thank you for your clarity, but I believe it's time I provide my own evidence." The lawyer stepped aside with a small bow, recognizing that this was her stage. Thomas frowned, uneasy. Evidence. What evidence could you possibly have? Selina opened her portfolio. The golden logo of Voss Carter Enterprises gleamed under the lights. She pulled out a single document, laid it flat on the marble, and slid it toward him. His eyes scanned the heading, then froze. "Acquisition agreement," she said calmly, her voice carrying across the lobby. "As of 6 months ago, my company purchased the Aurora Grand Hotel Group. That makes me not only your guest tonight, Mr. Green, but also your employer." The room erupted. Gasps, shouts, the frantic clicking of cameras. Isabella's live stream exploded with comments. "She owns the hotel. No way. No freaking way. He's so fired." Thomas staggered back, his face ghostly. That can't be." Selina pulled out a business card. Black lettering, simple, undeniable. Selina Carter, Chief Executive Officer, Voss Carter Enterprises. The card glimmered under the chandeliers. Lawson allowed himself a satisfied smile. "Ladies and gentlemen, I believe the case has just been closed." Selina straightened, her presence filling the space. For the first time, Thomas Green's mouth opened, but no words came. The clock struck 11:14. Her call with the board was only moments away, but she had already made her first restructuring, and the entire world was watching. For a moment, the grand lobby seemed to stop breathing. The chandeliers glowed with a strange brilliance, as though the room itself wanted to bear witness. Selina Carter stood at the marble counter, her business card gleaming in the glow. Her voice, calm and low, still carried across the silent crowd. "I am not just a guest. I am the owner of this hotel, and of every Aurora Grand property across this country." The ripple through the lobby was immediate. The murmur surged into astonished gasps. Phones tilted upward, guests whispering to their cameras. She owns it. She really owns it. Isabella Torres nearly dropped her phone as her live stream comments spun uncontrollably. 22,000. Oh my God. It's exploding. They don't believe it. Wait. She's showing them proof. Thomas Green staggered backward, his face a portrait of disbelief. His lips parted, but only a cracked whisper came out. This is a trick. Selina didn't flinch. She opened the portfolio again, pulling out a glossy page. It was the corporate website's About Us section, printed with precision. At the top, her photo smiled in a tailored navy suit. Her name embossed in bold: Selina Carter, Chief Executive Officer, Voss Carter Enterprises. She turned it around for the lobby to see. Gasps turned into a collective roar of astonishment. The diamond-draped woman raised her hands to her mouth. We sat here and watched him humiliate her. Her husband muttered, shame heavy in his voice. We didn't say a word. Selina's eyes scanned the crowd, her tone steady. What you saw tonight was not just arrogance. It was the kind of prejudice that corrodes institutions from the inside. But tonight, in this lobby, it was caught on camera, and now it cannot be erased. Thomas's face flushed an angry red. You think you can waltz in here? And Selina cut him off softly, but firmly. I didn't waltz in. I walked through the front doors of my own property. You are the one who treated me like I didn't belong. The words landed with crushing weight. Even Marcus Hill, standing off to the side, lowered his gaze. He had almost escorted her out. Selina turned toward him. Her expression was not sharp, but deliberate. Officer Hill, I asked you earlier to check your handbook, Section 7, Subsection B. Would you mind reading it now? Marcus hesitated, then pulled his phone from his pocket. His large hand scrolled quickly until he found the text. His deep voice rumbled, each word resonating in the hushed room. Section 7, Subsection B. Any employee found to engage in discriminatory conduct, including harassment based on race, gender, or perceived socioeconomic status, shall be subject to immediate termination without severance. Additionally, the employee may be held personally liable for reputational damage to the Aurora Grande brand. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Isabella whispered, He just read it. It's in black and white. Selina nodded, her voice unwavering. Thank you. Officer Hill. Thomas's hands trembled on the counter. You wouldn't. Selina leaned closer, her calmness like a blade wrapped in silk. You assumed I couldn't possibly be your superior. You assumed that because I wore denim and boots instead of diamonds and pearls, you assumed wrong. And you did it in front of thousands of witnesses. The lawyer, David Lawson, folded his arms with a faint smile. I'd advise you, Mr. Green, to stop speaking before you add slander to your growing list of problems. Kayla Brooks sat frozen at her desk, her eyes glistening. Her voice came out in a whisper. It's true. She's the CEO. She's the owner. Selina turned toward her, not with condemnation, but with quiet strength. Kayla, you still have a choice. You can be part of the problem, or you can be part of the solution. The young receptionist blinked, her throat tight. She nodded slightly, unable to speak. Selina looked back at Thomas. You don't have 30 days. You don't have 30 hours. You have 30 seconds. The crowd erupted into a chorus of gasps and whispers. Isabella whispered to her phone. She's giving him 30 seconds. This is insane. This is history. Thomas's jaw worked furiously, his pride wrestling with fear. This isn't fair. I've given 15 years to this hotel. 15 years of complaints, Selina replied evenly. 130 formal grievances, 82 warnings, guests describing you as arrogant, hostile, and unfit for hospitality. You've been protected by silence. Tonight, silence ended. Her voice did not rise, but every word hit like a hammer. The diamond-draped woman finally spoke again, her voice trembling. She's right. We all watched it. We saw him, and we didn't stop him. That's on us. The younger woman beside her spoke louder, almost defiantly. Not anymore. We're saying it now. We saw what he did. The crowd shifted, no longer passive onlookers, but a collective witness. Selina checked the clock 11:15. Her phone buzzed with the incoming call from the board of directors. She silenced it with one tap. The acquisition could wait a few more moments. Justice came first. Her gaze returned to Thomas. Her words were measured, each one sharp. You can resign quietly, with a neutral reference, or you can be terminated for gross misconduct. With every detail on your record, choose. The color drained from his face. His eyes darted to Marcus, to Kayla, to Lawson, to the cameras. Finally, he pulled at his tie, fumbling, defeated. I resign. The crowd erupted in applause, gasps, shouts. Isabella's viewers surged past 30,000. Her voice trembled as she whispered, "He just quit. You guys, he just quit right here." Thomas placed his name tag on the counter with shaking hands. It looked small, almost pitiful, against the marble. Selina nodded once. Your resignation is accepted. Her eyes shifted to Evelyn Sharp, who had been silently watching from the shadows near the office door. Assistant Manager Sharp stepped forward. Evelyn's face blanched. She had hoped to remain invisible, to let Thomas absorb the fall. But Selina's gaze pulled her into the light. Selina's tone was calm, but absolute. You enabled him. You enforced his prejudice. And you did it with the authority of management. What do you have to say for yourself? Evelyn's lips trembled. I was just following his lead. I didn't mean intent does not erase impact. Selina interrupted softly. You knew what you were doing. The choice is yours as well. Resign or be terminated. The crowd buzzed, eyes locked on Evelyn. She wilted under the weight of their gaze, then whispered, I resign. She, too, set her name tag on the marble, tears streaking her face. Selina nodded again, then turned toward Marcus. Officer Hill, earlier, you hesitated? You considered fairness. That hesitation is why you are still standing here. But hesitation is not enough. Will you help rebuild what has been broken? Marcus stood taller, his deep voice steady. Yes, ma'am. I want to be part of the solution. Selina's gaze softened briefly. Then stay. We will have work to do. She looked to Kayla. The young woman swallowed hard. I want to learn. Please, let me stay. Selina studied her for a moment, then inclined her head. Learning is painful, but it is the only path forward. You may stay. Finally. She turned toward the crowd. Her voice was calm, yet carried the weight of truth. What you have witnessed tonight is not just a restructuring. It is a declaration. Dignity will no longer be negotiable at the Aurora Grand. Every person who walks through these doors deserves respect. From this moment on, that will be our standard. The crowd broke into applause, cheers echoing against the marble. Isabella's phone nearly shook in her hand as she whispered, 40,000 watching live. This is unbelievable. Selina glanced at her phone once more. 11:16. It was time. She picked up her portfolio, her eyes sweeping the lobby one final time. Thomas and Evelyn had already slipped out, shadows of their former power. Marcus stood taller. Kayla sat straighter, and the guests looked at her not as an intruder, but as the leader she was. She answered the call with a calm voice. "Yes, Mr. Chairman, I'm ready to proceed. I was just in the middle of a corporate restructuring." The applause swelled, and then faded into murmurs as guests returned their eyes to Selina Carter. The marble lobby of the Aurora Grand had been transformed into a courtroom, a stage, and now something resembling a classroom. Selina stood steady at the center, her voice composed, her presence undeniable. She closed her portfolio, then set it neatly on the counter. "What happened here tonight will not be forgotten," she began, her words carrying to every corner of the room. "But forgetting is not what we need. We need accountability. We need change, and it begins now." David Lawson, the attorney, nodded with visible approval. He adjusted his glasses and said softly, "That's the kind of leadership people remember." Selina inclined her head slightly toward him, but kept her eyes on the crowd. "For too long, hospitality has been treated as a privilege granted only to those who look the part. I refuse to let this property or any property I own operate under that poison." Her phone buzzed once again with reminders of her call with the board, but she silenced it. The billion-dollar deal could wait a few more minutes. The hearts of the people in this lobby could not. She lifted her gaze toward Marcus Hill. "You spoke earlier about hesitation, but hesitation without action changes nothing. Tonight, I need action." Marcus's deep voice resonated. "I'm ready, ma'am." "Then you'll become more than security," Selina said. "Your new role will be Director of Guest Advocacy. From this night on, your job will be to protect the dignity of every single person who steps foot in this hotel." The crowd murmured with approval. Marcus blinked, stunned, then squared his shoulders with pride. "I won't let you down." Selina turned to Kayla Brooks. The young woman's eyes brimmed with both shame and hope. Selina spoke with measured calm. "Kayla, you faltered tonight. You followed the loudest voice instead of the right one. But you found the courage to tell the truth. That matters. I will keep you on. But your role is probationary. You will undergo intensive retraining 6 months. You will study not just policy, but humanity. If you succeed, you will rise. If not, this will be the end of your journey here. Do you accept?" That Kayla nodded vigorously, tears slipping down her cheeks. "Yes, ma'am, I accept. I want to learn." A faint smile touched Selina's lips. "Then prove it, every day." The crowd stirred again. Phones raised higher. Isabella whispered into her camera, "This is unbelievable. She's restructuring the hotel in real time." Her live stream ticked past 50,000 viewers. Selina shifted her gaze to the guests. "To all of you standing here tonight, thank you for witnessing. But witnessing is not enough. Silence protects injustice. If you see discrimination in this hotel, or anywhere, speak, act, record, hold us accountable, and hold yourselves accountable." The diamond-draped woman raised her trembling hand. "We didn't speak when we should have. We only watched." Selina's voice softened. "And now you've spoken. Change begins the moment silence ends." Her words seemed to ripple across the room like a tide washing over shame, replacing it with resolve. She reached into her portfolio again and pulled out a stack of documents, placing them on the counter where everyone could see. "This is the framework of what I call the Dignity Initiative, effective immediately. It will be implemented at the Aurora Grand, and soon after, at every one of our properties worldwide. Gaffs echoed. Cameras zoomed in. The initiative has 3 pillars, Selena explained. Accountability, transparency, and community. First, accountability. Every guest interaction will be recorded. Audio and video, not for punishment, but for protection of guests and of staff. Second, transparency. A mobile app will allow guests to file real-time complaints of discrimination or misconduct. Those reports will come directly to my office, not through layers of bureaucracy that bury the truth. And third, community. We will partner with organizations to recruit, train, and promote talent from marginalized groups. This hotel will not just serve the community, it will represent it. The lawyer Lawson whispered to someone nearby. "This is revolutionary," Selena continued, her tone steady but her words fierce. "There will be bystander intervention training. There will be mandatory anti-racism sessions. Promotions and bonuses will be tied directly to guest satisfaction scores, not just profits. Discrimination will not be tolerated, not in whispers, not in shadows, not in silence." The young couple filming in the corner broke into applause. Soon others joined until the lobby buzzed with claps, cheers, and murmurs of agreement. Selena let it swell for a moment, then lifted her hand. The applause faded. She looked again at Marcus and Kayla. "You two will help build this. But understand, this is bigger than any of us. What happened here tonight was not just about me. It was about a system that allows prejudice to thrive unchecked. We're not just running a hotel. We're setting a standard." Kayla swallowed, her voice trembling. "Ma'am, may I say something?" Selena gestured for her to continue. Kayla's hands twisted nervously. I knew what he was doing was wrong. I felt it in my gut, but I was afraid of losing my job, afraid of being singled out. So I said nothing. I don't want to live in fear anymore. I want to do better." The crowd fell silent, listening. Selena nodded slowly. Fear keeps people silent, but courage doesn't have to be loud. Sometimes it's just one word, one step. Tonight you took that step. The diamond-draped woman clutched her necklace. "I feel ashamed, too. We just sat and watched. We whispered instead of speaking up." Selena looked at her gently. "Shame is the shadow of silence. But you have a choice now: carry it, or turn it into action. What matters is what you do next." Her words hung in the air like a lantern, lighting paths for everyone listening. The crowd began to buzz again, this time not with shame, but with possibility. People nodded to each other, whispering, "She's right. We can do better. This is bigger than just a hotel." Selena finally picked up her phone, answering the call she had delayed. The voice of the chairman of the board filled her ear. "Ms. Carter, are you ready to finalize the acquisition?" She glanced around the lobby, the guests with their phones. Marcus standing tall, Kayla wiping her eyes, Isabella whispering to tens of thousands of viewers, Lawson watching with respect. "Yes, Mr. Chairman," she replied softly, but firmly. "I was just finalizing something even more important. The Aurora Grand is no longer a liability. It's the beginning of a new standard." She ended the call, not with relief, but with resolve. Then she turned back to the crowd one last time. "We rebuild from here, together." Applause thundered, echoing off the marble, shaking the chandeliers. Phones captured every second. But what mattered most was that the people in the room would never forget. Selena Carter had not just claimed her hotel. She had claimed the narrative, rewriting it in real time. The lobby slowly emptied as midnight neared. But the energy lingered like a charged current in the air. Some guests left still whispering in awe. Others stayed huddled in small groups, recounting the night's events as if they had been present for a piece of history. Isabella Torres ended her live stream with a shaky laugh, promising her 50,000 viewers that this was only the beginning. Selena Carter remained at the front desk, speaking softly with Marcus Hill and Kayla Brooks. Her satchel rested against the counter, the leather worn but dignified, a quiet reminder that appearances never told the whole story. "Tomorrow morning," she said, her voice calm yet carrying a quiet urgency. "The press will call this a scandal. They'll highlight the ugliness you both witnessed tonight. But I want us to write a different headline. I want this to be remembered as the moment we turned pain into progress." Marcus nodded firmly. "We can do it, ma'am. But it won't be easy." Selena gave him a faint smile. "Nothing worth building ever is." Kayla spoke hesitantly, her hands still twisting together. "What? What happens now? To the staff?" "To me." Selena studied her for a long moment before answering. "You'll be retrained, Kayla. That starts tomorrow morning. 6 months of the hardest, most uncomfortable education of your life. But if you commit to it, if you face the discomfort instead of running from it, you'll come out, not just a better employee, but a better person." Kayla swallowed and nodded. "I want that. I don't want to be who I was tonight." "Good," Selena said softly. "Then you'll be part of the future we're building." The lawyer, David Lawson, approached, briefcase in hand. "Ms. Carter, I have to say, in 20 years of practicing law, I've never seen someone take control of a room like you did tonight. You didn't just win. You changed the story." Selena's expression remained serene. Winning isn't enough. Changing the story, that's what matters. He gave her a respectful nod before excusing himself, leaving her with Marcus and Kayla once more. Selena looked toward the towering chandeliers, then back to her small team. "This lobby, this hotel, it can't remain what it was. Tomorrow morning, we begin the restoration. We rebuild from the ground up, and we do it with dignity at the core." Marcus's voice carried a quiet strength. "Where do we start?" Selena glanced around the now quieter lobby, her eyes tracing the cold marble floors. "We start with truth. Every member of the staff will meet with me directly. No exceptions, no titles to shield them. Everyone will have the chance to speak, to be heard, and to choose if they want to be part of this future. Those who don't, well, they'll follow the path of green and sharp." Kayla shifted nervously, but her voice was steadier than before. "And the guests, how do we show them things are different now?" Selena turned to her, her eyes glinting with quiet determination. "By making them feel it. Respect is not something we say. It's something they experience the moment they walk in the door. From the smile at the desk, to the way the staff listens, to the way problems are solved without condescension. It will be in every detail." Marcus gave a small nod. "Respect in action." "Exactly," Selena said. The clock struck midnight. For the first time that night, Selena allowed herself a long, steady breath. She reached for her phone, scrolling through dozens of notifications, news outlets, board members, even strangers who had tagged her name online. The story was already spreading beyond the lobby. She typed one short message on her official account. "Dignity is not a privilege, it is a right. Tonight, the Aurora Grand begins again." Within minutes, it was being shared across platforms, the comments flooding with words of solidarity, outrage, and hope. Marcus watched her, his brow furrowing slightly. "Ma'am, you're about to become a target. People don't like it when someone forces change this fast." Selena slipped her phone back into her satchel. "I've been a target my entire life." "Marcus, Tonight, just put the spotlight where it belongs." Kayla's voice trembled, but there was admiration in it. "How do you stay so calm?" After everything, Selena thought for a moment before answering. "Calm doesn't mean I don't feel the weight. It means I've learned to carry it differently. Anger can burn you alive, but purpose, that's a fire you can build with." The young receptionist lowered her eyes, letting the words sink deep. The last of the guests had drifted away, leaving the vast lobby quiet again. Marcus escorted the remaining onlookers out, while Kayla tidied her station with mechanical motions. Selena walked slowly across the marble floor, stopping at the exact spot where Thomas Green had slammed her card to the ground. She stood there silently, remembering the sting of his words, the humiliation he had tried to carve into her. Then she looked up at the grand chandelier above and whispered to herself, "This place will no longer be built on arrogance. It will be built on dignity." The next morning dawned with golden lights spilling through the tall glass windows. Reporters were already gathered outside, their cameras ready. Social media buzzed with headlines. Many sensational black CEO humiliated at her own hotel. Viral confrontation exposes racism in luxury hospitality. But alongside them were new ones. Selena Carter launches Dignity Initiative inside the Aurora Grand. Selena stood with Marcus and Kayla at the staff entrance, waiting as employees trickled in. Some came cautiously, eyes darting nervously. Others came defiant, whispering under their breath. But all of them stopped short when they saw Selena herself waiting to greet them. She spoke to each one directly, shaking hands, looking them in the eye. "Good morning. Today, we begin again." Some mumbled uncertain greetings. Others stared in awe. Word spread quickly. This was not going to be a normal shift. By 8 a.m., the entire staff was gathered in the ballroom, a space usually reserved for weddings and galas. Now it was filled with anxious employees and the hum of uncertainty. Selena walked onto the stage with Marcus at her side and Kayla sitting near the front, her notebook open. She waited until the room fell silent. "I will not pretend that last night didn't happen," Selena began. "The world saw it. You saw it. I lived it. And now we all live with the truth. The Aurora Grand has been poisoned by arrogance, by prejudice, and by silence. That ends today." The staff shifted uneasily. Some crossed their arms. Others leaned forward, hanging on her words. This hotel will no longer be a place where people are judged by what they wear, what they look like, or how much money they carry. It will be a place where every guest is seen, valued, and respected. And you will be the ones to make that happen. She paused, letting the weight settle. Some of you may not want this. If you don't, that is your choice. But understand there is no room for neutrality here. You are either part of the problem or part of the solution. The silence was thick. Then Marcus stepped forward, his deep voice carrying, "I stand with Ms. Carter. I saw what happened last night. I almost played a part in it. I will not make that mistake again." Kayla raised her trembling hand, her voice stronger than before. "Me too. I made the wrong choice last night. But I want to change. I want to learn." The room stirred. Employees glanced at each other, some ashamed, others emboldened. One by one, a few voices joined in. "I'll try. I want to be better. I'm in." Selena's eyes softened, though her tone remained steady. "Then together, we begin. This is the reckoning not of punishment, but of transformation. And history will remember what we build here." The ballroom buzzed with uneasy energy. The staff of the Aurora Grand housekeepers in crisp uniforms, bellhops with brass buttons, Concierges with polished smiles now sat shoulder to shoulder, not as polished employees, but as uncertain witnesses. Some avoided Selina Carter's gaze, while others leaned forward, curious and perhaps hopeful. Selina stood tall at the front, her voice calm but charged with authority. The world is already talking about us. What happened last night is no longer just a private failure. It is public, viral. Millions will watch the footage before this week ends. And every single one of you will be asked, where were you standing when it happened? Her words rolled like distant thunder, soft but undeniable. A housekeeper whispered to another, "She's right. My cousin texted me the video this morning," Selina continued. "You have two choices today. You can cling to what was broken, or you can help rebuild something better. But neutrality is no longer an option." Marcus Hill, now formally introduced as Director of Guest Advocacy, stepped forward. His deep voice carried the weight of someone who had lived the lesson. "I almost sided with what was wrong. I almost escorted Miss Carter out of her own hotel. That mistake will stay with me. But she gave me another chance to stand for dignity. That's the chance she's giving all of you right now. Don't waste it." The room stirred. Employees glanced at each other, the silence beginning to break. Kayla Brooks stood shakily from her chair. She clutched her notebook to her chest, her voice trembling yet determined. "I failed Dunham's. 2. I watched injustice happen right in front of me, and I stayed quiet. But I don't want to stay quiet anymore. Ms. Carter is giving me 6 months to learn, to prove that I can do better, and I will, because I don't want my silence to define me." The staff murmured, some nodding, others frowning. A bellhop whispered, "She's braver than I thought." Selina let the voices ripple before raising her hand for silence. "Starting today, the Aurora Grand will be the first hotel in the nation to implement the Dignity Initiative. You will see the changes immediately, and you will be part of carrying them out." She gestured to Marcus, who unrolled a large board with the 3 pillars written in bold accountability: transparency, community. Every guest interaction will be recorded, Marcus explained, not to punish, but to protect. Guests and staff alike will know that truth cannot be erased. Gas rustled through the crowd. A concierge raised his hand nervously. "Recorded every interaction." Selina nodded. "Yes. If that makes you uncomfortable, then you should ask yourself why. Accountability is not the enemy of honesty. It is its partner." The concierge lowered his eyes, chastened. Selina continued, "Transparency means every guest will have a direct line to my office. If something goes wrong, if someone feels disrespected, I will know, not weeks later, immediately. And finally, community. We will recruit, train, and promote from communities often left out of luxury hospitality. This hotel will not just serve the world, it will reflect it." A housekeeper in the back raised her hand timidly. "Ma'am, does that mean people like me, who've been invisible here for years, might have a chance to rise?" Selina's gaze softened. "Yes, no more invisible hands. Every role has dignity. Every role has a voice. If you have the skill, the heart, and the discipline, you can rise." The housekeeper's eyes welled with tears, and she whispered, "Then I'm in." Murmurs spread, more voices echoing softly. "I'm in. I want this. We need this." Not everyone was convinced. A senior concierge, gray-haired and proud, crossed his arms. "With respect, Miss Carter, some of us have worked decades to build a certain image for this hotel. Changing everything overnight, guests may not like it. They may see it as weakness." Selina stepped closer, her voice firm but not unkind. Weakness is pretending. Weakness is arrogance wrapped in gold trim. True strength is treating every person with dignity. And the guests who don't like that, those are the guests we can afford to lose. The man flinched, silence rippling through those around him. For the first time, staff began to understand she was not offering suggestions. She was offering a choice: move forward or move out. David Lawson, who had returned quietly to observe, leaned against the back wall. He whispered to another guest, "She's not just changing a hotel, she's changing an industry." Selina pressed on. "In the next month, every one of you will undergo retraining, not just technical skills, but human skills: listening, empathy, intervention. We will bring in leaders from outside, voices from communities too often ignored, to teach us. This will not be comfortable. Growth never is." Kayla scribbled furiously in her notebook, her eyes burning with determination. Marcus added, "Bonuses, promotions, and even continued employment will depend on how guests describe their treatment. Here, not just profits or sales. Respect will be measured, and respect will be rewarded." A young bellhop whispered to another, "That's the first time anyone's tied pay to how we treat people, not just how much we upsell them." Selina nodded, catching the whisper. "Exactly. Hospitality is not about selling, it's about serving. If you can't see the difference, this is not the place for you." The ballroom hummed with new energy. Some employees sat straighter, hope flickering in their eyes. Others fidgeted, resistant to the shift. But the current was undeniable. Selina closed her remarks with a quiet, steady declaration. "This hotel will be a sanctuary of dignity. If you cannot commit to that, you should hand me your badge today. But if you can, if you will, then together, we will turn this place into more than a hotel. We will make it a standard. And history will not remember the humiliation of last night. It will remember the transformation that began this morning." The room erupted into applause. Not hesitant this time, but firm. Some stood, clapping with conviction. The diamond-draped woman from the night before, who had returned to watch, wiped tears from her eyes. Guests who had once whispered in shame now applauded openly. Selina allowed herself a small smile. For the first time since she had stepped into the lobby the previous night, she felt the weight begin to shift. But she knew this was only the beginning. Transformation was not a speech. It was 1,000 choices made every day. Still, the first choice had been made. The Aurora Grand was moving forward. By sunrise, the Aurora Grand was no longer just a hotel, it was a story. Across phones and tablets, on breakfast shows and news tickers, the footage of Selina Carter standing calm and unyielding in her own lobby played on repeat. The hashtags Zank Aurora Grand, Dignity Initiative, and Selina Carter trended across every platform. At a coffee shop 2 blocks away, a young barista refreshed her feed between lattes. She owned the whole place. She whispered to a coworker, and they tried to kick her out. Can you believe that? By mid-morning, national outlets were running headlines. CEO confronts racism in her own hotel, fires staff in real time. Clips of Selina's words. Weakness is arrogance wrapped in gold trim. True strength is treating every person with dignity. Circulated with millions of views. Selina watched none of it. She sat in her office, coffee untouched, her laptop open to a stack of internal reports. For every article celebrating her leadership, she knew there were lawsuits, investors, and industry rivals watching closely, eager for her to stumble. Marcus Hill knocked softly before stepping in. "You should see this," he said, holding out his phone. On the screen, a clip from a national morning show. The host leaned toward the camera. What makes this remarkable is not just that a black woman owns one of the most prestigious hotels in the country. It's that when confronted with open hostility, she didn't explode. She restructured. On the spot. That's leadership. Selena exhaled slowly. "It's noise," she said, though part of her heart swelled at the recognition. "The real test isn't what the news says. It's what happens here in the next 6 months." Marcus nodded. "Still, people are paying attention, maybe for the first time in years. This industry has no choice but to pay attention." Down in the lobby, Kayla Brooks greeted a guest with a nervous but earnest smile. It was her first shift since the upheaval, and though her probation weighed heavily, she carried herself with a new sense of purpose. The guest, a woman with 2 children in tow, leaned over and whispered, "I saw you on the live stream. I'm glad you're still here." Kayla's cheeks warmed. For the first time, she felt seen not as a mistake, but as someone trying to make things right. Meanwhile, David Lawson, the corporate lawyer who had intervened during the chaos, typed furiously at his desk downtown. His inbox was overflowing with inquiries from clients asking about the Dignity Initiative. "Is this enforceable?" one wrote. "Could this become a liability?" another asked. David shook his head. They didn't get it. This wasn't liability. It was revolution. By evening, Selena found herself seated in a live interview on a major network. The lights were harsh, the cameras closer than she liked, but she spoke with the same calm gravity she had held in the lobby. "What do you say?" the host asked. "To those who argue you acted too harshly, that firing your staff on the spot was more about spectacle than justice." Selena folded her hands. "What I say is, those employees weren't fired for one bad night. They were fired for years of documented discrimination, abuse, and decline. That night was simply the last straw. And I didn't fire them to make a point. I fired them to protect every guest and every employee who deserves dignity. If the world wants to call that a spectacle, so be it. I call it leadership." The host hesitated, then nodded, and the Dignity Initiative. "You really plan to implement this worldwide?" "Yes," Selena said simply. "At all 1/200 of our properties. Not because it's convenient, but because it's necessary. Hospitality without dignity isn't hospitality. It's theater, and theater collapses when the lights go out." The clip spread even faster than the lobby video. Teachers played it in classrooms. Activists quoted it in speeches. For a weary public used to shallow corporate apologies, Selena's clarity felt like a rare and powerful thing. Back at the hotel, not everyone embraced the new order. Some staff grumbled quietly, afraid their every word was now under scrutiny. "We're not actors," one complained in the break room. "We can't be perfect every second." Kayla overheard and surprised herself by answering, "No one's asking us to be perfect, just to be decent. Isn't that what we should have been all along?" The room fell silent. No one argued back. Meanwhile, Selena's investors called an emergency meeting. The numbers, they feared, could plummet with such radical changes. But to their surprise, early bookings surged. Guests, especially younger travelers and families, were deliberately choosing the Aurora Grand as a statement. "We want to stay where dignity is policy," one guest wrote in a survey. Selena addressed the investors via video conference. "You asked for growth." She told them, "Here it is. Not just revenue, but reputation. That is the currency that will outlast every scandal." Still, in her private moments, Selena wrestled with doubts. In the quiet of her office at midnight, she stared at a photo on her desk, her mother standing in front of a small diner in Atlanta, apron dusted with flour. Her mother had taught her that dignity wasn't something you earned. It was something you gave, freely, no matter who stood across from you. "Am I doing this right?" Mama Selina whispered into the silence. "Or am I just painting over broken walls?" The silence gave no answer, but her resolve deepened. She would keep building, brick by brick, until the walls held. Within a week, other hotels issued press releases. Some promised renewed commitments to diversity. Others scrambled to update training manuals. But most stopped short of what Selina was doing. That only made her initiative more striking. One journalist wrote, "The Aurora Grand isn't just cleaning up a scandal. It's setting a new bar. And whether competitors like it or not, the market will demand they catch up." For Kayla, the ripple effect was personal. On her third day of retraining, a group of new hires young people from underrepresented neighborhoods arrived for orientation. She helped lead the session, her voice steadier now. She told them, "You don't have to come from privilege to belong here. You just have to be willing to respect every person who walks through those doors." They listened, wide-eyed. For Kayla, it felt like planting seeds she had once been too blind to see. Marcus too felt the shift. Guests began approaching him not with fear, but with gratitude. "I feel safe here," one woman told him. "Not just physically safe, but respected. That's rare." Marcus carried those words with him like armor against his past hesitation. By the end of the month, Selina stood once more in the ballroom before her staff. This time, the energy was different. The air was charged, not with shame, but with cautious pride. "Look around you," she said softly. "This is what change feels like, not easy, not instant, but real. We are not finished. We may never be finished, but we are moving, and the world is watching." The applause that followed was thunderous, echoing off the chandeliers like a promise. 6 months after the night that changed everything, the Aurora Grand stood transformed. The chandeliers still glittered. The marble floors still gleamed. But something deeper had shifted. The air carried warmth rather than pretense, respect rather than suspicion. Guests who once entered stiff with intimidation now walked in relaxed, greeted by staff who looked them in the eye with genuine welcome. Selina Carter stood quietly in the lobby one morning, watching the flow of people. A family from Detroit checked in, the children laughing as they tugged at their parents' coats. A businesswoman from Seoul accepted her room key with a smile, and at the concierge desk, Kayla Brooks guided a guest through dinner recommendations with a confidence that had once seemed unimaginable. Selina's chest swelled with pride. Kayla had not only survived probation, she had flourished. She'd earned her place, proving with every shift that people can change when given the chance and held accountable. Marcus Hill approached, dressed in his tailored navy suit that marked him as the director of guest advocacy. He carried himself differently now, no longer a man caught between duty and doubt, but someone who embodied his title. "Morning, Ms. Carter," he said, nodding toward Kayla. "She's really come into her own." Selina smiled softly. "She's proof that second chances aren't charity. They're investments." Marcus glanced around the lobby. "And the staff. They're proud now. You can feel it. This place doesn't just look different. It feels different." Indeed, the transformation had gone beyond surface. Complaints had plummeted. Guest satisfaction soared. Bookings outpaced projections. And for the first time in years, the Aurora Grand operated not only at full occupancy, but with a wait list. Other hotels were struggling to keep up, scrambling to implement watered-down versions of the Dignity Initiative. Yet Selina knew success was fragile. Change was never permanent. It was a constant choice. Later that week, Selena was invited to deliver a keynote at a global hospitality summit in Chicago. As she stepped onto the stage, thousands of industry leaders watched, waiting to hear from the woman whose name had become synonymous with change. She began simply, 6 months ago, my own staff tried to deny me a room in my own hotel. They looked at me at my skin, my clothes, and decided I didn't belong. That moment was ugly, but it was also a gift, because it forced me to ask, what does it mean to truly belong in a place? What does it mean to be seen? The auditorium fell silent. She let the question hang, then continued, we talk about luxury as chandeliers and marble floors, but true luxury, the rarest kind, is dignity, to be treated as if your worth is not up for debate. That is what every human being deserves. And that is what we must build into our institutions, not as decoration, but as foundation. Applause broke out, hesitant at first, then swelling. Selena pressed on. The Dignity Initiative is not a public relations stunt. It is a new standard. We record interactions not to shame, but to protect. We tie bonuses to respect because respect is not optional. And we open doors for those long shut out, because hospitality without diversity is hypocrisy. Her voice steadied, rich with conviction. Some of you will resist. You will say it is too radical, too costly, too disruptive. But I ask you, what is the cost of humiliation, of silence, of lives diminished because someone was told, you don't belong here? That cost is far greater. And if we in hospitality cannot lead on dignity, then what business do we have calling ourselves hosts? The room erupted into standing applause. Journalists scribbled furiously. Cameras flashed, and her words were clipped into sound bites that would echo across industries. Back in New York, Kayla watched the live stream of the speech in the staff lounge, tears welling in her eyes. She remembered her own silence that night in the lobby, the shame that had burned her throat. Now, hearing Selena's words, she felt both the sting of memory and the balm of hope. She whispered to herself, I'm part of this. Marcus watched too, pride swelling in his chest. He thought back to that split second when he had almost escorted Selena out. The guilt still lingered, but now it fueled him. Every day, he carried himself as if protecting not just guests but their dignity. Selena's message rippled far beyond the hotel world. Schools invited her to speak. Universities used the Aurora Grand case study in ethics and leadership classes. Activists quoted her in rallies. Even corporations outside hospitality, tech firms, retailers, airlines began exploring dignity-centered policies. One evening, as Selena left the hotel, she paused at the entrance. A new plaque had been installed near the revolving doors. It read, "In honor of the dignity of every human being, may all who enter here feel seen, valued, and safe." Selena touched the plaque lightly with her fingers, the cool metal grounding her. This was more than a hotel. It was a symbol. Walking through the city streets, she reflected on her journey. She remembered the venom in Ethan Price's voice, the smirk on Evelyn Sharp's lips, the way Kayla's nervous laugh had cut deeper than insults. She remembered the humiliation of being doubted, dismissed, erased. And she remembered the fire that had risen in her chest that night. Not rage, but resolve. She knew racism wouldn't vanish because of one hotel's policies. She knew arrogance and entitlement would rear their heads again. But she also knew this: she had drawn a line, and thousands had seen it. And because they had seen it, they could draw their own. That was how change spread, not in waves, but in ripples. Months later, as the Aurora Grand celebrated its anniversary under the new initiative, Selena addressed her staff once more in the ballroom. This time, The chandeliers glittered above faces alight, not with fear, but with pride. "I want to thank you," she said, "not for being perfect, but for choosing better every day. This hotel is proof that dignity is not abstract. It's in how you greet a guest, how you listen, how you treat each other. It's in the courage to change." Kayla stood near the front, her uniform neat, her notebook replaced by a tablet filled with schedules and reports. She was no longer the timid receptionist, she was the assistant manager, entrusted with shaping the culture she had once nearly destroyed. She blinked back tears, hearing her boss speak words she now lived by. Marcus stood tall at Selena's side, his presence steady, his voice respected by all. He had grown into his title, not just as director of guest advocacy, but as a protector of something greater. Selena ended the gathering with a final simple statement. "Remember, this discrimination is not a glitch in the system. It is the system, and every day we choose whether to uphold it or dismantle it. Here, at the Aurora Grand, we have chosen to dismantle it, and together we will keep choosing." The applause thundered, echoing long after her words faded. And in that sound, in the unity of voices once divided, Selena heard the beginning of something larger than herself, larger than any hotel. She heard legacy. The story of Selena Carter reminds us that dignity is not reserved for the powerful. It is the birthright of every person. In life, we often face moments when others try to define our worth by what we wear, where we come from, or how we appear. For older generations especially, this truth resonates. You may have lived through times when silence felt safer, when speaking up carried risk. But Selena's journey shows that silence only feeds injustice, while calm courage can transform it. She did not raise her voice in rage. Instead, she used her strength, wisdom, and compassion to draw a clear line. In doing so, she protected not only herself, but everyone who would come after her. The lesson is simple, yet profound. Dignity must be demanded, defended, and extended to others. Each of us has the power to choose whether in families, workplaces, or communities to treat people with respect, or to turn away. One choice may feel small, but together, those choices create legacy. As we grow older, our influence deepens. Let's use it to leave behind a world where dignity is the rule, not the exception. Thank you for sharing your time with us and walking through this story together. If it moved you, if it made you reflect on your own experiences, we invite you to keep this conversation alive. Please like, share, and subscribe so more voices can join in. Your support helps us tell the stories that matter, and together, we can make sure dignity is never negotiable.